A martini, shaken, not stirred.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Houston, we have a problem.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Keep your friends close, but your enemies close.
I'm your number one fan.
And here we go.
Welcome to a special edition of the Cine-Men Movie Podcast, where today is Quentin Tarantino Talk Part 2, and today I'm just joined here by Zach.
What's going on, guys?
And we didn't get Zach's aspects or information or thoughts on Quentin Tarantino with Ed the other day, so pretty much we're just going to do the same thing, and it's Quentin Tarantino month here on the show, and one of the main things that I have is Reservoir Dogs, as far as like his movies that I want to talk about, and that episode will drop tomorrow night. Have you seen the movie yet?
I did, yeah.
I want to get your thoughts so bad on it, but we'll save it for tomorrow. But one of the first questions I had, and this is pretty much just a reintroduction, everybody can, this is going to be on the Patreon, a lot new listeners, a lot more different views of how we view movies. But before, let's get out of the way. You guys can find us on Instagram. Just search Cine-Men Movie Podcast. And then the Facebook page is facebook.com/moviereels405. Or you can just search Cine-Men Movie Podcast and it pops up. And then you can find us on the Twitter at Cine-Men405. So now that we got that out of the way, Zach, what draws you, when you think of Quentin Tarantino, what movie stands out the most?
Probably either Django or The Hateful Eight, because those are probably my two favorite ones of his. His other films, Inglourious Basterds, I do like. The Kill Bill films are fine. I know probably his masterpiece is probably Pulp Fiction, which everyone seems, that's his number one.
I feel like I'm the same way when it comes to Kill Bill, and I don't know why. I'm going to revisit him this week, but I don't know why Kill Bill to me is fine. Because I feel the same way.
It's everything you want in a Tarantino film. Mm-hmm. The violence, the language, the story. It's something different for him. I think his film before that was Jackie Brown, before he did Kill Bill.
Yeah.
And then he did
which feels like
black exploitation, and then he did a martial arts film.
Which feels like a decade long.
Yeah.
Like, you go from Jackie Brown with stars like Robert De Niro, Sam Jackson, Michael Keaton, and then you do Kill Bill, and it's like, what happened in between?
Yeah. I guess he was just trying to find that next good idea that he wanted to do. And I think originally he wanted Kill Bill to be just all one story. It would have been like a 3.5 hour, 4 hour film.
I revisited Pulp Fiction, and did you notice when, what's her name? Mrs. Maurice's wife or girlfriend, mm-hmm. She was explaining to John Travolta about, she had a dream where she was she pretty much explained Kill Bill to John Travolta in Pulp Fiction.
Which pretty much, it's the Tarantino universe.
I want to bring this up, I'll talk about this tomorrow as well, and on the future episodes, but could you imagine, he had the two scripts that he had before Reservoir Dogs, and he sold both of them, and I think Ridley Scott ended up doing both of them, or Tony Scott, but he did he wrote Natural Born Killers and True Romance. Mm-hmm. Have you seen any of those two movies?
Mm-hmm. I think those are Ridley Scott films.
True Romance is out there. It's a pretty good movie, but like, I haven't seen Natural Born Killers, but I'm sitting there thinking, like, could you imagine if those two were part of like Quentin Tarantino movies? How would that have switched everything up to what he's about to do now we don't really know what he's about to do now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, here in 2 weeks, Once Upon a Time comes out. I mean, then we don't really know what his next move is, other than maybe the R-rated Star Trek movie.
I mean, you're somebody who's away from like social media and stuff. So, have you? If it wasn't for you searching or listening for the movie, have you heard much about the movie? Like, whether it be TV spots, ads on Hulu or Netflix, or when you go to the movies a lot, have you? Has it been out there as far as trailers go?
Not really. I went and saw yesterday the Beatles movie, like I mentioned last time on the show. It played before that, and then
It did Spider-Man.
For you,
Yeah.
It didn't for me.
Really?
I was in the IMAX though, so it didn't. IMAX should show IMAX movies.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then I saw Crawl yesterday, which I'll talk about on tomorrow's show, and it didn't show before that, which is kind of surprising.
A lot of his movies, though, it's almost like hearsay. Like, you don't see a lot of publicity for those kind of movies. He is one of those kind of directors that, whether it be like old school Hitman Japanese movies, or I noticed one of the directors that he's like influenced by is, and that he's worked really close for, is Terry Gilliam, who's directed like Brazil and Time Bandits. And then tomorrow we'll talk about how some Japanese movies influenced Reservoir Dogs. But with somebody like Tarantino, who still uses the old school film, he doesn't update any of his really methods on the way he does movies. Do you think that's something that maybe why he's getting ready to just say I'm just going to write from now on, or? And if he does just write books or scripts, what kind of stuff would you be interested in seeing him maybe write?
I think that's one of the reasons why Tarantino is interesting. He's one of the auteurs, I guess you would say, about classic film. Like, he uses film to do everything, while everything has gone to digital now.
That's actually my next question. But
if he stopped doing directing and he just straight up wrote films, I don't know. Would you consider the Grindhouse films horror? They're more like pulpy, like.
Are you talking about the one he did? What was it? Death Proof?
Yeah.
Honestly, it's been so long since I've seen that movie. But it would almost be like a Sin City like kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like a Norm film, or like an off topic western maybe.
Yeah.
But that is one like interesting thing that I would like. Okay, it was actually this week last year that I saw Quentin Tarantino is doing a Manson film, right? That's how it like got released. Was he's doing a movie based around the Manson murders?
That's what this movie is coming up. Yeah.
And that's the only thing I heard about it for the longest time. So when I first saw that, I'm like, he's doing a fucking horror movie.
Yeah.
And then the trailer comes out, and it has nothing to do with the Manson murders.
It looks like a black comedy,
right?
Almost, yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out, where is the Manson murders tying into this?
Yeah.
Is it...
And I'm the same way. Like, the only thing I know about this movie, it's in the 60s and it revolves around the Manson murders.
Right.
Margot Robbie plays Sharon Tate, who was one of the victims of the Manson murders. But that's it. That's all I know.
Yeah.
So
nothing has been released as far as, is Charles Manson in the movie? Mm-hmm. Is there somebody who plays him? We know somebody's in the movie that,
looks like him.
Well, I haven't seen any pictures of it yet, but do you think this might be one movie where the trailer says one thing, and we go in,
it's something else,
and it's completely like a whole twist,
mm-hmm.
murder, blood, Rob Zombie-like movie?
Oh.
You think it'll be grotesque?
I don't think it'll be grotesque. I think it's just going to be something like...
Because Leo's in it and Brad Pitt's in it, so you would think that it wouldn't be that bad,
right.
grotesque.
And Leo and Brad, well, not so much Brad, but Leo, he doesn't really do films like that.
Right.
So there's got to be something in the movie that he got excited about to do it. So,
and you mentioned it earlier. My next question are, if say Tarantino hangs it up after this, are there any more directors that are still, like you said, auteurs out there, like somebody who just appreciates the old school mention of that kind of filmmaking, from like maybe a visionary from like the 70s or the 80s?
I want to say
Christopher Nolan.
Nolan does it with his IMAX films.
Right.
Because when you go, it's an IMAX movie.
Well, even, I don't know if it's maybe cockiness or what, but even somebody like a Chris Nolan has said, hey, if you don't go see Dunkirk in IMAX, just don't see my damn movie.
He wasn't wrong. I'll say that.
No. It's unbelievable what he's done. But would you say there's anybody out there that can, be that next, other than Christopher Nolan, I can't think of another director that's, an event. Even Spielberg sometimes, some of his movies, like he did Ready Player One.
Right.
I was excited for it, but it didn't feel like I have to watch this opening night.
No. And I was talking to someone about this the other day, and Spielberg's next movie is West Side Story. It's a remake. I'm just like... And that's going to get into my point a little bit later on, but I don't know, man. Maybe Jordan Peele, his films are, he's only done Get Out and Us, but, anytime I hear Jordan Peele, it's just like, oh, what's he going to do next?
There's a interview that he did stating that he doesn't feel like he's going to shy away from horror anytime soon either. No.
And then I read about Ari Aster, who did Hereditary and Midsummer. They asked him, what's your next movie going to be? And he said it might be a nightmarish comedy, but I think horror is his genre, but he wants to do something else, and he'll come back to horror. It sounds like Jordan Peele, his next movie is going to be another horror film.
I mentioned it to Ed on his edition, and I told him that the director for It,
Andy Muschietti.
Yeah, he's rumored to direct the Flash movie.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah,
and there's another one of those directors that you have a hit like Mama, It chapters 1 and 2, and then you just go off and do something like this. Is it one of those things that is horror? I mean, obviously horror sells, but if you're so good at something, why shy away? Maybe and attempt something else. I don't know.
I don't know, man. I think because the expectation of horror directors are so extreme now, because it's almost like if you're gonna do a horror movie, you need to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
You need to actually scare us. You need to have twists, thrills. We gotta like the characters. And today's horror movies, they're just not that.
No, I think they're too obsessed with possession. Kind of feels like the Conjuring universe is one that you can you have hits and misses, more misses than hits.
Yeah.
And then something with I
mean, if you look in that whole trilogy, The Conjuring, The Conjuring 2, all the Annabelles, The Nun, and
my favorite would be Conjuring 2.
And I guess the Curse of La Llorona. The Conjuring 2 is the best, and then probably Annabelle Comes Home. Not Comes Home. Creation is probably second, and all the rest of them were okay, they're fine.
Yeah.
It has cheap thrills, and that's one thing I hate about horror movies. If you're gonna scare me, just do it right.
I would almost want something. I don't know what it is lately, but witch movies have kind of been on point.
The Witch.
Yeah,
I was kind of disappointed.
I like The Witch, and then Hereditary is almost kind of like a witch-like movie.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Midsummer, but I heard that was really good. But I don't know. I think
I wanted to walk out of Midsummer and say that was the best movie of the year, and I just couldn't do it.
Was it? What was it? If you could give a non-spoiler review for somebody out there listening.
Okay, so the movie's basically about this group of friends that go to Europe for a Europe vacation. Mostly one of them is doing a thesis or whatever, and they come across this what they think is a normal just community that this is their livelihood, but there's something much more going on than what meets the eye.
And I heard it's mostly shot in sunlight during the day.
And the movie's beautiful.
Really?
It's just beautifully shot. And this is really not a trailer. And this is not really a spoiler because it's in the trailer. The characters do drugs, and the cinematography of when they're on drugs, it's trippy. I would hate to be on drugs watching this movie, honestly.
What do you know what they were doing?
Probably LSD or mushrooms or something.
Was it based in the 70s?
No.
It's up to date. Okay.
Yeah. It just got too weird. Is my problem. Hereditary was weird, but this, I haven't seen Antichrist, which I know you're trying to get me
gonna-
to watch.
You're gonna love Antichrist then. Like I said, somebody referred Antichrist to me, and I watched it, and I was just like, "You sick fuck! Why do this to me?"
Yeah, nightmares for days.
You know, you've been on this podcast now since, I think November. We've done some movies that you've recommended, you liked, and some movies that you've loved, and some movies, honestly, that you probably won't watch again. But
Batman Returns.
as far as being young and seeing a movie for the first time that just gravitated you towards, I got two different questions and probably two different answers, but the first one is going to be, what was the one movie that, like, when you were young, just stuck with you and gravitated you towards movie watching?
Probably just because it is my favorite. Probably my favorite film is probably Jurassic Park, the first one. Every time that is one of those movies that I can watch. You can pop it in right now. I can sit through it and still I can love it. I can still find something new I haven't really noticed. The whole dialogue scene where they're sitting having lunch and Jeff Goldblum's like, don't you see the danger of what's going on? I love that dialogue.
I think that scene right there is probably, first off, when you say dialogue, it's probably the best dialogue of the film, because it actually sounds like they're having real issues and talking about, hey, this isn't supposed to happen, and this is what needs to happen.
Yeah. It's like the ethics of it, of you're bringing something back that's been dead for 60 million years. And then there are going to be consequences from this.
I think they even used that when they tried to bring back. Didn't he almost say the same thing in Jurassic World 2?
Yeah, it just wasn't as good.
So with that being said, like, that's your one favorite film that just gravitated you towards, like, movie watching and saying, hey, But now I'm going to ask, the older you get, what is one movie that you think is just, like, probably, whether it be the cinematography, the acting, the directing, the soundtrack, it could be the same movie if you want. What's the one film that you think overall is probably one of the better movies that you've seen that gravitated you towards the art of filmmaking?
Probably, it's probably a twofer, because the first one would probably be Casablanca, because I remember reading that from the library. I was like, fall break, and I was like, this is considered one of the best movies of all time, so
yeah,
I'll be the judge of that. Let's see. And I loved it, and still to this day, I got to go see it in the theater actually a couple of years ago.
Was it nice?
Mm-hmm. It's a very different experience. And then the other one is probably Rear Window, Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh wow!
And there's something. And it's interesting to watch a film from the 40s that's black and white and a movie just 10 years later is in color. That it just kind of opens your eyes to see, like, oh, there's something more than the CGI fest that we have nowadays.
Yeah.
Even going to something like The Wizard of Oz, there was no CGI. All that stuff, all that shit is made from scratch. Yeah. And it's incredible.
Yeah.
And the fact that you make that movie now,
which they tried to, and it.
Yeah. All that would be CGI.
Yeah.
There's no not animatronics, but like.
You could almost think maybe the lion and some of that stuff would be CGI.
Yeah. There's no attempt at costume. Well, the costumes would probably be, but the matte paintings in the background, that would be all CGI. The actual Yellow Brick Road, where it actually goes to a certain point and it's real, and then the rest is CGI. And that
the monkeys, the trees probably would be CGI.
Yeah. And then all the witches, magic and all that, when she actually pops up, and when our parent, I don't know about your parents, but when my mom saw that as a kid, she was terrified of the flying monkeys.
Yeah.
And it looks real.
That's still one of the movies that I think we're going to cover later on down the road. That whole film has some dark history to it.
Yeah, are you talking about the suicide?
Yeah.
I believe that's just something stupid.
Like
but-
room 237.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Stanley Kubrick movie, the documentary. Yeah.
Next question is, in your mind, what do you think is the best well-known film? And you know, when somebody says, "Hey, you know, a household movie name," whether it be, to me, if I had to answer that, it would probably be, not just because you just got talking about, but maybe The Wizard of Oz. I don't know somebody who doesn't know The Wizard of Oz, and then maybe. All
right. Well, I think I know one of the ones you're going to pick.
The Godfather.
Yep. Probably The Godfather.
Or maybe even Rocky.
If you're not, I would agree with Rocky to an extent. If you're not a sports fan, then you're not going to watch it.
The only reason I say Rocky is because of Yo Adrian.
Yeah, it's a classic line.
Yeah.
Probably Jaws, which I think we're gonna do next month. Psycho would be one probably. But if you don't like horror movies, then you're out on that.
But you know what? Psycho to me is so much more than a horror.
It's not really a horror movie. It's more of a thriller.
Yeah, so much more. Like it's one of those movies, like you said, Casablanca. I could sit and probably watch once a day and find something different that I like about it.
And kind of going back to Casablanca, I think one of the things I get drawn to that is just Humphrey Bogart, who, you know, he's American, basically lost. You have Ingrid Bergman, the love of his life that comes back into his life, and the chemistry between those two. It's just like, that I could watch that all day.
I actually got an email from one of the listeners. I can't find the name right now, but they suggested we do and I'm going to take the idea. They suggested we do a classic poll. You know, a movie from the 40s, 50s, or 60s, and throw it up at a poll and let people decide, and we cover that movie. So I was thinking maybe, I know Rebel. Have you seen Rebel Without a Cause?
I haven't seen it.
I'm interested in maybe that. Casablanca is one, and then maybe put The Wizard of Oz in there. But if I feel like I put that in there, it's a given that probably will just win.
I think we should do The Wizard of Oz just because. I think you should do something like I don't even know if I could get through this movie honestly. Gone with the Wind. That's also another household name.
Yeah, that's true. But I think for listeners' sake, I think Gone with the Wind might be something
a little tedious.
Yeah. Because so far, actually, out of all the episodes, I have gotten good feedback of people saying, "Hey, you know, the movies are easy for them to find. They've watched, and so." Yeah, but for sure those two movies will be included in the poll. We'll pick out another one. Okay, now it's time for the movie that you think is probably just underrated, that you think maybe doesn't get enough credit, or something that you really enjoy, but maybe somebody else just hasn't had the time, or the critics haven't had the time, or you know they don't give it the really sunshine of the day. And it's okay if you say Batman versus Superman.
What was yours?
Most underrated movie, I would probably say, well, you kind of reverse that on me.
I got one. If you still need some time to think about it. Honestly, probably since I started the podcast, I've been trying to get people to watch more of it. Gifted. With Chris Evans.
Gifted.
It came out to 2017. I was lucky enough to see it in the theater, and that I can see where people kind of think that might be a cheesy film, but it's just so damn well acted. It's directed. Its direction is perfect for me, and it has a story that pulls on your heartstrings. It really does.
It's the one with Octavia Spencer's in it too, right?
And McKenna Grace, I think is her name.
She's the one that played the little girl.
She's actually in Annabelle Comes Home.
Oh, is that the third? Did you see the third one?
It's I think she plays like the Warren's daughter or something. But I think if it wasn't that one, what would be yours?
The one I would probably have to choose, I feel like it's got to be... Go ahead.
I actually just thought of two more. I'm looking at your gorgeous movie setup that's sitting on the side of us over here. Probably either Prisoners with Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yep.
That movie is like fucking crazy.
Is it crazy? Is it weird of me now that that's like a Thanksgiving go-to? Like, come Thanksgiving time, I'm like, it's cold outside, it gets dark early, I want to watch Prisoners.
Yeah, it came out. I think it came out around Gravity. Okay, so it's probably I think it was like an October release. And then the other one I was thinking of is The Shallows with Blake Lively.
Yeah,
I think that's a movie that really got the shaft when it came out. Everyone said it. I think people said it was good, but it just didn't get like enough recognition that it deserved.
Mine's a recent one as well, but one of mine would probably have to be Solo.
Solo.
Like, it's a good movie. Everything in it is amazing. I mean, you finally get to see the Kessel Run. You get to see young Chewie and young Han.
Lando.
But just because of how it didn't supposedly make money for Disney, like, they don't know if it's greenlit for the other two, and it's just one of those that's, I think it gets overlooked when you talk about Star Wars movies. It's one of those that I didn't see opening weekend. I didn't even see, opening month. I didn't even go see it in the theaters, to be honest with you. I waited for the Blu-ray release, and then, that's how that happened.
Right.
And then another one I think is, and you've talked to me about it, is Mark Wahlberg in, is it All for the Money?
Oh yeah, All for the Money with Christopher Plummer. Yeah. That one definitely got the shaft due to the Kevin Spacey controversy. So, god damn. Sorry guys, Spider-Man Far From Home is almost at $1 billion.
So now that we got underrated, if you had to choose something that you're tired of hearing as almost like an overrated movie, what would it be? One off the top of my head, and it's probably going to piss a lot of people off, is going to be Black Panther.
Really?
And Aquaman. Just recent big box office hits. Like,
right.
When Aquaman came out, everybody was like, that's the best DC movie that I've seen. And I watched it, and the first time I watched it, I was surprised. I was like, that's a good movie. But the second time, I could not stop comparing some of the stuff to Batman and Robin. I liked it better. I liked it better. Yeah, Shazam was better. Shazam was a lot better. Shazam to me was a lot better than Aquaman. The second time I viewing of Aquaman, I really didn't get into it. And then Black Panther, it's a good movie. I think there was other comic book movies before it that could have got nominated for Best Picture. And this goes all the way back to The Dark Knight. Like, if you don't nominate something like that, I don't think you can nominate anything else after that.
Right. I'm looking at your Best Picture shelf. This is gonna piss people off. I know this is gonna piss you off. Unforgiven. I think it's fine. I don't know if it's deserving to be Best Picture.
What else came out that year?
Let me look. Hold on, folks. Just give me 1 second. I want to say no. Pulp Fiction was the year before. No, the year after. Oh no, that's Schindler's List. I don't know what came out later that year.
Honestly, guys, while he's doing that, let me let you know that this special edition of the Cine-Men Movie Podcast is brought to you by Rockstar Energy Drink. It is the active energy drink for people who live active lifestyles. Get your can today. You can try anything from the original flavor to the sugar-free watermelon to the killer grape. It is available in over 20 different flavors in 30 different countries. Rockstar Energy Drink, the official energy drink of the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. And now let's get back to the show. And man, I would say that there's some. I mean, I'm glad that you kind of brought that up. There's some other Best Picture winners that I think are definitely overrated.
Birdman, that's another one.
I thought Birdman was okay, but probably for what else came out that year. I'm still really upset about Shakespeare in Love over Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, shit.
94, you're talking about Pulp Fiction. I think Braveheart won over Pulp Fiction. Yeah, Braveheart won over Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, I think so too. No, I think that was Forrest Gump, actually. Hang on.
Because Pulp Fiction was 94, which would have been the 95 Oscars, and Braveheart won 95 Oscars. So I think it was Pulp Fiction. What do you... Braveheart is okay, one of those films too, I guess.
Believe it or not, I've only seen half of Braveheart. I've never had the desire to rewatch Braveheart. Like, finish the rest of it.
I've never had the desire to rewatch The Artist.
I was actually... I've been in the mood to watch The Artist for some reason. Okay, so here's what was nominated for when Unforgiven won. Oh... Unforgiven. Here's what was nominated: Unforgiven for Best Picture, A Few Good Men. I think that was
Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Howard's End, which I haven't seen, and Scent of a Woman.
Just three?
Yeah. It was Unforgiven, The Crying Game. That's another one. A Few Good Men, Howard's End, and Scent of a Woman. Out of all those, yeah, probably Unforgiven. Sad to say.
A Few Good Men is a good movie as well.
Yeah. But I don't know, man.
What about Shape of Water? Would you say that was a little...
Yeah, that's a definite, overrated. It's just
deaf woman fucking a fish.
That's a summary for Shape of Water, ladies and gentlemen.
With a little mixture of Hellboy in there.
Oh, yeah, basically.
Del Toro's got a fixture for fish people. Fish-looking people. I don't know what it is.
Because It
almost looks like the same thing in Hellboy, and then the same thing in Pan's Labyrinth.
Oh, so the year Forrest Gump won Best Picture, the other nominations were Four Weddings and a Funeral, which I haven't seen, Pulp Fiction, Quiz Show, and Shawshank Redemption.
I'm surprised Shawshank didn't win.
If we had those Oscars today, it'd either be Shawshank or Pulp Fiction.
If we had that Oscars today, it would have been Shawshank. There's no way the Academy would let Pulp Fiction win a Best Picture now.
But I don't know, man.
Can you believe it that
it did win?
What did?
Pulp Fiction, because Tarantino won an Oscar for the screenplay.
But
winning it as overall the best movie.
I'm talking about if it was nominated today for Best Picture in 2020 or 2019, I don't think it would win anything. I don't see the Academy putting violence like that over again.
Well, the movie before that was Schindler's List.
No, I'm talking about if it was today.
Oh, let me see. What are the...
Because none of the movies...
Green Book, Shape of Water, Moonlight. The last, violent film was probably The Hurt Locker.
Or The Departed.
And No Country for Old Men.
Speaking of The Departed, let's talk about some more directors, and we're going to talk about Martin Scorsese. Do you think he won Best Director for the wrong picture? A lot of people say he probably should have won it for, Goodfellas... Or
Taxi
Casino
Driver.
or Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, but he didn't win it till The Departed.
Yeah. But I think The Departed is his best film. I know that's people are shitting bricks right now because everyone it's either Goodfellas, Taxi Driver, or Raging Bull. I've seen all three of those and. Honestly, I don't have any of the desire to watch them again.
Really?
Yeah.
Would The Departed be better for you than how he did The Wolf of Wall Street? Which is a movie. There's so many weeks left in the year. I want to do a Wolf of Wall Street episode because I think it's just so fascinating how he takes something like that and almost turns it into a sport-like film. How you have these raging Wall Street guys just
gone crazy with the drugs and the sex and
but
to answer your question, I do like The Departed over The Wolf of Wall Street. The Wolf of Wall Street, after like a 2-hour mark, I'm just like, okay, like, we get it. We get the gist of it. This guy is like a horn dog that's obsessed with women and drugs.
Yeah. Would you say that's probably Leo's best performance, though?
No, I think he, like, if we were going to talk about, like, what movie he should have won for, probably The Revenant. Because he only had, like, maybe 10 words in that entire film, and he had to use, like, his physical, like, his, like, facial features to actually express what he was thinking.
I feel like the Academy does this, what they do with the directors, like how I feel like Scorsese should have won for Raging Bull.
Mm-hmm.
They wait until, like, maybe they see your more body of work and then they give you best director.
Right.
Same thing with, like, the actors.
Right.
But with, like, the actresses, it's like, she's young, let's give it to her.
Yeah,
Emma
Stone was a great
Jennifer
example.
Lawrence, Brie Larson.
Who won last year? Regina Hall? No, Regina King.
For
If Beale Street Could Talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I haven't even seen that movie. No, she won for Best Supporting Actress.
That's supporting. Olivia Colman won for Best
for the
Actress.
favorite one,
Yeah.
Best Actress.
I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. Return to the King is also another example of, like, how is it that you can nominate it for like 80 billion things, but you don't give a nomination to Sean Astin? He acted his ass off in that film, playing Sam. Because, like, towards the end, where, like, they're going up the volcano and he has to carry him on his back, I was like, yeah, that's Oscar-worthy acting. Even Peter Jackson came out and said that.
I even think I think he even got the shaft for Rudy.
Yeah.
I don't think he even got nominated for that.
Yeah.
Maybe he did something. Maybe he, like...
It's like, God dang, who'd he piss off?
Maybe he took out one of their daughters and, like, never called her back. Going back to some Quentin Tarantino talk... Before I dubbed July Quentin Tarantino month, what was the first Quentin Tarantino movie you saw? And was it, like, by accident, or did you just choose to watch that movie?
I think the first one that I saw was Inglourious Bastards. I saw that in the theater, actually.
Since we don't have an Inglourious Bastards episode anytime soon, what was your first reaction?
Like, yeah, so this is what everyone talks about with Tarantino. That is Tarantino. The next one I saw was Pulp Fiction. I saw that, like, on a laptop while doing laundry in my college dorm, and that's how everybody sees Pulp Fiction. Honestly. Apparently,
it's one of those movies that is, like, shown to college people.
Yeah. And then it just followed Django, and then Hateful Eight, and I saw Kill Bill the first time last year, and Jackie Brown last year, and Reservoir Dogs yesterday.
What did you think of Jackie Brown? Since we're not doing a Jackie Brown episode.
That's the Tarantino movie that I might have an interest of watching Pulp Fiction or any of his other films again. I'll never watch Jackie Brown again.
Really?
Yeah.
That's shocking.
It's
one of my dark favorites. I don't know what it is about it, but it's just one of those that at first when you watch it, you're like, this is all pointless. What does this have to do with anything?
Yeah.
Is it a drug movie? Is it a money movie? She's stealing money.
Is it a Get Out? Not Get Out, but like Get Out of the Situation type movie.
But it's funny that I think in both Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs, he talks about Pam Grier.
Yeah.
And then he finally gets her in one of his movies. But I don't hate it. I honestly like it a little bit better than Kill Bill 1 and 2.
I'd watch Kill Bill 1 and 2 before that.
So, I mean, it's surprising. Like, I'm kind of glad that your first one might have been Inglourious Bastards.
I think it's a good introduction.
Yeah.
It's the same way that I feel like if you're going to start watching Wes Anderson films, I think the best one to start with is Moonrise Kingdom.
Moonrise Kingdom?
Yeah. It's not as weird as his other films. Like, if you started with fucking Darjeeling Limited, like, you'll never watch another Wes Anderson movie.
Rushmore is really good.
Rushmore's really good.
And it's one of those that's, it's not overly thought about.
Yeah.
It's about this 15-year-old kid who's just
has a crush on his high school teacher.
Right.
Yeah.
Would you say that Quentin Tarantino is one of those directors that you could just, now that a movie is going to come out, I mean, we have, of course, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's coming out, and we're going to cover that. So, if it wasn't for the episode or anything like that, would you still go see it?
Oh yeah.
Opening weekend.
Oh yeah. Mostly because Leo's in it. Leo's one of my favorite actors right now, and I'm pretty much down for anything that he does. And the fact that he's reteaming with Quentin as a lead in his film,
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
How good is somebody, do you think Leo is, for somebody like Tarantino, Scorsese, and Nolan to just, anytime they, he's up for anything they want to do?
I think that shows the masterwork that he's capable of, and it's also, you're not going to see Tarantino do, not Tarantino, you're not going to see Leo do Billy Madison. He would never do something like that. But,
even going back to like his younger roles, like
the Basketball Diaries,
or Beaches, or the Beach, or
Gilbert
Grape.
Yeah,
he's always been not a method actor, but a solid actor.
He's not Daniel Day-Lewis. He's not going to disappear.
No. Even though he could have done that for The Revenant, people probably would have been like, that crazy son of a bitch.
Yeah.
So you said your first one was Inglourious Bastards. Now that you've actually seen most of his movies,
I think I've seen all of his films now. With the completion of Reservoir Dogs, I've seen all his main directed films.
Right.
I haven't seen Grindhouse because I kind of consider that like a co-directed film with Robert Rodriguez, but I've seen like all his main films. So.
Right. Yeah. That's most important. I mean, the only thing you're missing out then is, like you said, the Grindhouse film. And then he had, I think there was some short films he did, and then, was it like 4 Rooms he was one of the directors in?
Mm-hmm.
There's 4 short films and he was one of the directors. So. And then he had the 2 movies that he wrote the script for and just sold. But, man, I think it's about time, if you were asking somebody to go see a Tarantino film with you, how do you approach one of his films?
You have to be open-minded. Because you could watch The Hateful Eight is probably a good example. You think it's all about these people that are just meeting to get out of the blizzard, but there's something much more going on.
Well, let me put it this way. Say I'm never seeing a Tarantino film, but I do like movies, and you're going to go see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and you're trying to convince me to go see that movie. What would you ask? Or say, hey, how would you explain to me? Oh, you can compare it to this. Or you can compare his work to this guy.
That's a hard question. I can't, because he's just so... He does his own thing. He's not mocking anything. He's not trying to rip off Spielberg or Scorsese or even Wes Anderson. Each of those directors have their own signature style.
What's hot today? Would you compare it to like, hey, do you like John Wick movies? If you like John Wick, you might sit through this.
Yeah, possibly. Or if you like Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Even that kind of negates my last statement, but Taxi Driver is kind of like a Tarantino film.
Yeah.
Like you could see him directing that.
I could see that. Yeah. Pretty much. One small thing of Reservoir Dogs. One small hint for tomorrow's episode. Would you watch it again?
No.
No?
No.
Oh boy.
We're probably gonna hate each other. Like I said, I wouldn't. I put it above Jackie Brown. I even put it above Kill Bill Volume 2. And then...
That makes me feel better.
And then I have to rewatch Pulp Fiction. I'm gonna rewatch it before that episode, so I can't really tell you.
Yeah, with the Reservoir Dogs, I can see it being... because honestly, other than... This week is going to be the most I've seen it in probably 2 or 3 years. But it's not a movie that you overly have to think about.
No.
It's a real simple film.
Yeah.
So with it being a simple movie, it's one of those that you don't really have to revisit.
Right. And something, before we get out of here, there's something I wanted to talk about, just about film in general. Man, like, okay, I guess let me start off the conversation by saying, do you think Hollywood is out of ideas?
I think Disney's out of ideas.
You think Disney's out?
I think Disney's out of ideas. It's funny that you say that. I did have something else that kind of was like, I don't know how to put this, but our movie theaters not only like hurting for business, but like that's a good thing that you said. If Hollywood's out of ideas, I don't necessarily think Hollywood is out of ideas. I just think that they're almost tiptoeing around ideas because they're afraid what other people's gonna put out there on social media, or they're afraid of what other people might say.
Yeah, but
if that makes
who
sense.
gives a shit?
The
thing is, it's just like if you want to make your movie, go fucking make it. It didn't stop, even the most independent films, like independent directors like Kevin Smith and Robert Rodriguez. They just went out and grabbed a bunch of friends and made a movie. Which is going to be interesting.
It's going to be interesting to talk because next week's Pulp Fiction top 5 is going to be our top 5 independent films. But as far as your question to me goes, I don't think they're running out of ideas.
I think so because, well, go ahead and finish your point.
The only reason I say that is I think they're leery of what to do as far as what to put out there. I mean, also and this goes back to the damn Avengers Endgame. That's another reason why I think you think they're out of ideas, because I think these $2 billion, $1 billion superhero movies is killing Hollywood. I think it's killing movies.
And don't get us wrong, we're not shitting on these movies.
No.
Because we actually we love them, obviously. Yeah. But I mean, it's just
Star Wars. Batman, Shazam. $1 billion movies. They're fun. You want to go see them, but as far as like the small, and not necessarily even small, because John Wick is not small, or Halloween wasn't small.
Us wasn't even small.
No, or Get Out, Midsummer, but it's taking the appreciation of those movies away.
Yeah, and like I was thinking about this on the ride over here. It was just almost everything that has came out this year, other than maybe Us and Midsummer and Fighting with My Family and maybe a couple other ones. Everything is either a sequel, a remake, or just a continuation of something. Because I mean, this summer alone, I can count.
Even Fighting with My Family, even that's based off of a true story, so that's not even an original idea.
Right. This summer alone, because let's go through the list. Avengers Endgame, that's a sequel. John Wick Chapter 3, that's a sequel.
Secret Life of Pets,
that's a sequel.
Godzilla,
that's a sequel.
X-Men,
that's a sequel.
Toy Story 4,
Spider-Man 2,
yeah.
The Lion King, that's a remake.
Aladdin's
a remake. Men in Black's a sequel. Almost like a reboot. Not exactly how, but
Child's Play
remake.
You're hitting it right on. Yeah, you're hitting it right on the
Hobbs and Shaw, which I know you don't care about, but it's a sequel,
right?
And it's just like, guys, the only thing original that I've seen.
Sleep.
Well, that's a sequel technically, but the only thing that I've seen original this whole summer is probably Crawl, which I saw today. Stuber, that's kind of an original idea.
That's funny. I think we saw it almost a month ago.
Yeah.
And since Ed's here, we can kind of give a little review about it. But honestly, I think that's one of the better comedies that I've seen in quite a bit.
And it got panned.
Yeah, it got shit on.
Yeah.
I don't know. Everybody
and
out
both
there,
of us were laughing in the theater.
The whole theater was cracking up.
Yeah.
It was loud. It was laugh out loud funny. Anybody out there, if you are listening to this for some reason and you just
got bored one Sunday afternoon.
But if you're listening to this and you know, I would go check it out. Now, granted, we saw it for free. Would I pay to? We'll buy it. I'm gonna buy it. But would I pay to see it again with somebody who hasn't seen it? Like, hey, you want to watch something funny? I would honestly pay to go see it again. I just think it's to me it's organic because they're real best friends in real life. But those two together, that's funny.
Yeah.
I would see them in a Twins movie, a remake of Twins. That'd be hilarious. But they have great. What's the word I'm looking for? Chemistry.
I think
it kind of dragged
a little bit.
A small part, but it only dragged when he went to the art gallery.
Right.
After that,
I think,
and the action. Oh, I'm sorry, but the action and the blood was good. It wasn't like cheesy.
Right. I think the thing I was wanting to I was trying to bring this up is I saw the trailer to Terminator Dark Fate today, and
was it the same? Man, was it the same trailer that got released online a few weeks ago?
Yeah.
This is the first.
My thing about it is just, God damn it, why? It's just going back. We're going back to the well of Terminator again. Honestly, we haven't had a good Terminator movie since probably Judgment Day, honestly.
It's true.
Rise of the Machines, shitty.
No, Rise of the Machines doesn't get the credit I think it kind of needs.
Is that an underrated film?
It's not underrated, but I don't think it deserves to be shit on as much as it does. The only reason I think it was only put out like just a few years after Terminator 2.
No.
Was
Terminator
it 10 years?
2, yeah, about 10 years.
I think if what's his name got his life together, and he was in
Nick Stahl.
No, the one who played John Connor in '92.
Oh, Edward Furlong.
If he got his shit together 10 years later, and he was in maybe Rise of the Machines, or some of these other movies, I just think it would have been like a nostalgia thing, and I think people would have been like, "Oh, fucking badass, John Connor! That's John Connor to me."
Right.
Like, you know, when I think of John Connor, I don't think of Christian Bale. I think of Edward Furlong.
Right.
So, yeah.
And then, what was the next one? Salvation. Genesis. Talk about shitty. And then now Dark Fate.
I really want to like the Terminator movies. I'm a huge because 1 and 2 were some of the. Honestly, 1 and 2, if you were to ask me sci-fi wise, those are some of the best movies I've ever seen. 1 and 2. I'll throw the first one up there. I'll throw it as underrated because Terminator 2 was so good. I think the first Terminator is underrated to me. It's not a bad movie.
But it's not that I don't have the problem of these movies coming out. It's the problem of
the timeline is fucked up.
Well, not even that.
Doesn't make sense.
It has nothing really to do with the franchise itself. It's just like, why are we going back to these films? Can we just come up with something new?
Yeah.
You know, I think that's my problem.
So what say Dark Fate didn't come out, and it was just a completely reboot of the first one?
No.
You wouldn't even want to do that.
Who are you going to get that outdoes Arnold Schwarzenegger in that role?
What if The Rock was the Terminator?
Oh, Jesus. Do we need to start a petition?
Come with me if you want to smell. But I see your point. This year has been a lot of remakes, sequels, and you know what, man? It all ends in 2 weeks. I think Quentin Tarantino's film has got to be the savior of this summer's Hollywood movies. If this movie can make money, and it's already gotten the thumbs up, it's already gotten the high critical praise. Mm-hmm. It's everybody's favorite movie so far. If you're talking about a art film, I think everybody praised it.
It's definitely going to be.
All we have to do now is hope and pray that it makes the money.
I'm sure it will, because you have an incredible cast.
Yeah,
you have Tarantino, but Tarantino movies are starting to I think they've always made money, but they're making more money. Because the last two films, Django and Hateful Eight, and even
Django made more money than Hateful Eight, though.
Right, and even Glorious Bastards, that still made a lot of money.
But I think the thing that helps this one is Leo and Brad Pitt.
Right.
But I just pray that, honestly, I've never hoped as far as anything in the past few years, but I really hope that this movie makes more money than any of his other movies. And probably I wish that it would made more money than the last two combined. If this movie can make a lot of money, honestly, this is the movie that Hollywood needs to save. I think this is the savior. I'm not just saying this because, it's Quentin Tarantino and he's like my favorite director. I'm really saying this because after this, what do you have?
Nothing.
You don't have...
You have Hobbs and Shaw, which is the next week, and then a little bit later on is It Chapter 2. It's a sequel.
And a remake.
Yeah. In October, we have Joker.
Something that doesn't need to really be done.
No. I'm trying to think of what else.
Even some of the movies that come out in November, December that are getting Oscar talks, like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Yeah.
Still based.
Which I want to see that. That looks really good.
Me too. But
and then I saw... Did you see the...
Based off of somebody's life.
Exactly. I saw the trailer for Ford versus Ferrari. Dude, I think that's going to be good.
Who's in that one again?
Christian Bale and Matt Damon.
Oh, yeah.
And it's from the director of Logan and Walk the Line.
Oh, what's his name?
James Mangold.
Yeah.
He's a
great
good
director.
filmmaker.
Yeah. But yeah, I think...
But then it all comes back in the end because at the end of the year is Star Wars. We're going back to that. Which, I mean... I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited for it.
No, I get you. I'm excited for it too. But I just think I truly, and guys, I'm not harping on any of these superhero movies, but I really do think that that's what Hollywood is relying on to make the money and to sell tickets, which is right because that's what it's doing. But it is killing some of these other.
But it's our fault. I
movies.
see it. I see it at the end of the day. It's the consumer's fault. We only showing up to the really big movies. We're not supporting any of the little ones, like Crawl or Midsummer or hopefully not Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And then at the end of the day, we're wondering why the studios are always making the same damn movies all the time.
Yeah, it's almost just like a recycled bin.
Yeah.
So, I get it, and it's kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is.
I mean, if you think about like the early days of Hollywood, I mean, you could say that a lot of that shit was basically recycled. It's the same stories, just told in different ways. But I mean, if you look at the Best Picture winners, or in the early years, you have Wings, which is basically like a World War I epic, Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, Ben-Hur. These films that are almost like, not so much, maybe not so much Casablanca, but Gone with the Wind and Ben-Hur, epics. They're basically considered nowadays. You don't see films like that no more. Mm-mm. Maybe I can't even think of the last movie that you would think of as an epic.
What do you mean? Define that as a movie, like an epic movie, if you could.
Epic in that not so much the runtime of 3 hours, because you could say Endgame is an epic, just based off that. Which I know it technically isn't, but I mean, like, you have a million plus extras. You have extraordinary sets put together. You have a story that basically transcends time itself, and then just not only a story that transcends time, but just a good story in general. You know, I can't think of maybe Return of the King. That'd probably be the last epic that I could think of.
Solely, still, that was based off of a book.
Yeah, but so is Gone with the Wind and Ben-Hur.
Yeah,
and I'm not talking about like, I don't want to.
Schindler's List.
Yeah, but that's based off someone's life.
Yeah. Saving Private Ryan.
I could probably maybe see that as an epic. It's not really based, maybe...
To me, maybe. I don't know, maybe The Departed.
Titanic. Even though that's based off a real event.
Yeah.
Gladiator.
I don't know if it's a Russell Crowe thing, but some...
You hate Russell Crowe.
It's not that I hate Russell Crowe, but it's one of those that... I don't know. Argo. I really appreciated Argo for what it was.
Yeah, that... We'll talk about Ben Affleck tomorrow on the top 5. So.
Oh yeah.
So.
True.
But I mean, it's just. I don't know. I'm just harping on the same thing, guys, and I'm sorry if I'm saying the exact same thing. The 800 verse. It's just I think Hollywood needs to do kind of like a, not a hard reset, but just kind of look at the calendar year and just say, hey, we really do need to come up with something new.
I still think some of these movies like a Mandy or Cold Pursuit or the Professor. Hopefully you'll find time to watch it tonight. But movies like that, you don't really hear too much about unless it's, nearsay. But it's one of those things that it's good. And I know we're running a little long here, but the thing is, guys, if you see a movie on Netflix, or if you see a movie that, say you go to Family Video, or say you go to the Redbox, check some of those movies out. Movies like Hotel Mumbai or The Professor. Some of these movies that you didn't really see in theaters and you didn't see or hear much of. High Life is another one. Go see them. Go check them out. Not saying don't go see these big hit Hollywood blockbusters, because you're going to like them. Obviously, you're going to stick to what you like. But just give something else a try. Give something else a taste. And to me, that's the best thing about blind buys or blind watches, is I'm going to find something that I never seen or never heard of. But at the end of the day, like The Professor, would I probably have wanted to see it really bad if Johnny Depp wasn't in it? Probably not.
Right.
But I think that's one of his best performances in 15 years.
And there's another movie that actually we'll talk about in my recent watches tomorrow that totally got overlooked, and I think it's probably one of the best. If I had seen it before our top 5, it would have made my top 5 of the year.
And you're talking about that tomorrow.
Yep.
Other than that, man, I think that's going to be it on this Quentin Tarantino movie talk part 2 with Zach. Do you have anything else you want to add to the listeners out there?
Probably just a big thank you staying with us for, I've only been at least staying with Juan and Ed since the beginning, and our fan base is slowly growing, and I appreciate it. It just shows that I think that there are other people out there that are just big fans of film.
You guys can catch us on Facebook.com/MovieReels405, or you can just Facebook search Cine-Men Movie Podcast. Go to the YouTube channel and just search Cine-Men Movie Podcast. If you want to email us at Cine-Men, CINEMEN921 at gmail.com. You can text or call in at 405-590-5711, or you can find us on the Twitter at Cine-Men405. So that's going to do it for Zach, and that's going to do it for me, Juan, here at the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. Thank you guys for listening, and we will talk to you tomorrow, Monday night, July the 15th, for the Reservoir Dogs episode right here on the Cine-Men Movie Podcast.